Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of BCS Community Connections podcast. And today on the podcast, and I mean, the timing really for us probably couldn't be any more perfect than we're sitting right now. I have Mrs. Laura Livingston. And Miss Livingston is the owner, franchisee for I Heart Mac and Cheese here in town. And so by the time this may get out, many of you may have a little short-term memory loss or something like that. But we're literally recording the week of probably one of your biggest events, I guess I would say. And we'll talk about that a little bit about how that came to be. But really in the middle of something that I kind of said, what kind of week are you having when you came in here? Because I'm sure it's been quite a roller coaster. We can take the last 7 days and probably say it's been quite a roller coaster. And so you guys will remember this by the time you get to sit down and either watch this or listen to it, and you'll get an idea of kind of what we're talking about here as we get to it. But what we wanted to do was we wanted to bring Laura in, be able to sit down and get her to talk about her restaurant a little bit and it's really you and your husband, what y'all are doing here in the community, and get a little bit of information out to people who may not be familiar with your business or may have a misperception about your business, about what it is that you guys actually do or what you serve out of your business. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about you first, and kind of just talk about your background, like, where you came from, what you've done, how you got here into College Station, because we were talking before we started here, and there's information you're sharing with me that I usually try to do pretty good research before we sit down, but I wasn't even aware of some of that stuff. So I think people being able to hear some of your ties back of what you've done here in town kind of rounds things out a little bit better before we get started talking about I Heart Mac and Cheese. So if you want to talk about kind of where you grew up, what brought you here, your husband, your family.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Colorado, actually. Was not a Texas girl, but met my husband and he was from Texas. And so we ended up in College Station 10 years ago. It was 2009. Okay. And we came because the Health Science Center was not relatively new at that point in time, right, at Texas A&M, and they were hiring in the nursing department. And so he came on and as a nursing professor and did that. And shortly, within a year, a position opened up at the Health Science Center for me, and I started working in the simulation center. They call it the CLRC. It's a Clinical Learning Resource Center. We changed the name along the way there. And working with College of Medicine, the College of Nursing, College of Pharmacy, so all of those schools. And we did that for 10, 11 years. He actually worked for the College of Medicine for about half that time, College of Nursing and Medicine. We did a lot of interprofessional work. We were the two people that ran the disaster day simulation that is well known in the community, right, that we used to do every year, and it just was huge. It grew. And so so that's what brought us here, and we raised our kids here. They both went to middle school and high school here, graduated from A&M Consolidated High School. My son went into the Air Force through the early, it's called DEP, Delayed Entry Program. Yeah. And so he signed up while he was in high school and then went to the Air Force. He's actually stationed in Japan, stuck in Japan. We haven't seen him for over a year because of COVID. Yeah. And then our daughter she actually finished high school doing dual learning at Blinn, and finished high school with pretty much a year of her college behind her. Also went to A&M, graduated last year, and is working on her master's now. Nice. And living here in town. And so, and so we were looking for our exit strategy from our careers into retirement. And what do we want to do with this nest egg that we've built? We tried to be really responsible and put money back. And then my biological dad, sold a ranch and needed to kind of put that money in, invest it in a way that helped him not lose it and to taxes and that kind of stuff. So he bought some other properties, which included a ranch here in Texas that he said, hey, do you guys want to, ranch? And we had ranching and farming background from being, young and doing all kinds of things. And And so we said, oh yeah, that'd be a great place to do that. And so we kind of got into the ranch life and away from the academic life, but we still wanted to maintain our ties to the community and do something here that would help the community and also maybe provide something that our kids might want to take over later, or that that we might be able to grow a business that we could help other people, mentor other people into.
Sure.
And bring about a place that because my philosophy is if you build a team and you take care of that team, they'll stay with you. They're not going to be transient. They're not going to go back and forth, and they'll want to grow with you.
Right.
And we wanted to build that sense. And so we decided to do restaurants because, it was my husband's idea. He said, restaurants do. We had so much trouble getting into a restaurant in Bryan College Station for 10 years. Right. We could not get into a restaurant, especially if students were in town. It was always packed and crowded and loud. And we said, how can you not succeed having a restaurant in College Station, Texas? And so we spent a year, putting that plan together and putting together a business plan and not borrowing money, but putting our own money. We put all of our own money into it to put it together to buy the franchise. We researched and we looked actually for a franchise. Interestingly enough, we looked for a franchise that was what we termed recession proof.
Right.
And we had some people working with us, and they brought this and said, this is a good model, and there were lots of reasons for that. And because it's a simple business model for the franchise. And so we thought, well, it can be run, technically it could be run with only a couple people in the store instead of these larger restaurant chains that have to have so many people on staff in order just to be open for the day, right? And so you could do it with a minimal staff, which meant that when times were really lean, you could cut back on labor and still, coast through and then build back up. So that was our thought. And what we didn't realize is that a pandemic was coming. Yeah. We didn't build pandemic into our business plan.
Yeah. 330 million people get an opportunity to go through something they've never gone through before. Yeah. And so I Heart Mac and Cheese is born here in College Station. Did you open both locations at the same time?
Well, that was our original plan, was to open one location and then on the heels of it, the other, so that our plans were grand to be ready for football season in 2020. And that did not, actually, originally our plans were, I think, to be open for football season in 2019. And we found that the construction process was much more complicated than we had originally thought it would be. And so so everything, cause there was a delay, and we finally got the first restaurant open in the last week of January of 2020. And it was.
Now this was the Century Square?
This was the Jones Crossing. This is the Jones Crossing location, right? And the Century Square, because of its location, its ties to the university, the construction process there is even more complicated. Sure. And so it was taking a little bit longer, and we were okay with that. I mean, we were still planning on it opening within about 8 to 10 weeks of the original restaurant at Jones Crossing. And we were 6 weeks into into Jones Crossing, and it was doing quite well. I mean, it was achieving the projections that we had. Everything was really working out the way we thought it should. And then, of course, students went home for spring break. You started hearing about COVID, and it's over there, and we don't have to worry about it, and we're going to be okay. And then it came to the U.S. as those of us in healthcare knew it would. Yeah. And it struck here, and they they sent students home for spring break. Everybody went home for spring break. We were expecting that week to be very slow. But then they didn't come back. Yeah. Our customers didn't come back.
It wasn't supposed to turn into
and we were
3-month deal.
We were brand new. And the interesting thing is, I think that something that affected us greatly is, there had been lines out the door of these young people and these college students and everything. And so the locals, like we had been for so many years, you drive by a new restaurant, there's a line out the door. You're like, yeah, I'll try that later. Right. I live here. I'll try that at winter break. I'll try that when there's not a line out the door. And so I think that happened, that phenomenon also hurt us, that, everything was so busy, and we were just stumbling around and trying to get our grip, our bearing, and figure out how we're going to do this with this much business. And then it disappeared. Our customer base disappeared, and the locals, I mean, everybody was shocked. It was a shell shock, and nobody was going out, and there was then so much fear about going out, and what might I expose myself to, and so it drug on, and in that we made that decision to wait on Century Square. We weren't sure if that was going to be okay, if we might do that. And of course they worked with us. They were so gracious, and they worked with us, and they gave us extensions on things that we had signed and promised to open at a certain time. And at some point, I mean, and I think that's what some people don't understand is, well, why don't you just ask your landlord for a break? Or why don't you just do this? Well, because they have bills to pay too. They have obligations to banks that they borrowed money from to build the thing. And so at some point they had to say, you signed this, you made a commitment. Yeah. And I'm that's one of my cornerstones of my philosophy is integrity. If I make a commitment, I need to do everything in my power to meet that commitment. So we went ahead and because summer was here and things seemed to be getting better, right? The viral numbers were down. We kind of figured out in this community, you wear your mask, you're taking care of things. The restaurants don't seem to be a big source of community spread. We've got this, the delivery model, all the things that changed for us. And so we made the decision to go ahead, mostly because the landlord came to us and said, hey, you have to start paying rent. And we knew that. We knew it was coming. Yeah. And so it just made sense. Like, if we're going to have to pay rent, we should, see how many dollars we can put toward that by going ahead and opening. Let's build it out and open. And so we made that decision knowing that eventually there would be a vaccine. This is going to, we're going to handle this. We're going to manage this, and we'll get there. And it just, we opened, and it just didn't materialize.
Yeah. So we're going to unpack a little bit of this.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of information, but we're going to unpack a little bit of it. So I do want to back up a little bit and just give some people a little bit of history about I Heart Mac and Cheese. So it's a franchise opportunity. Started out of Fort Lauderdale.
Yes. So South Florida is where it started.
2012.
I think so. Yep.
I think that's what I wrote down over here. It's 2012. Or I'm sorry, 2015. Sorry, my mistake.
Okay.
2015. Looks like it was started by Chef Michael Bloom.
Yes.
Is who kind of rolled this in here. So it's definitely, it's not a restaurant that people just would expect to see pop up. I remember when this thing started opening and you were over at Jones Crossing, and I was like, well, that's interesting, like mac and cheese. And we were talking before we came on the podcast here about people's perceptions about what they may think the restaurant is, as opposed to what it really is. So you guys, Jones Crossing is a great location, but it's also a great location price-wise. And so,
yes.
I think a lot of people are maybe unaware of that particular deal. And that's not knocking Jones Crossing. I mean, there's a value in the location, and because you're close to student housing, you're close to A&M, you're on a main stretch there, you're crossing.
Not far from the high school.
Yeah, you're right there crossing 2818 in Welborn. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things that are working towards what your guys' perception is of like, listen, man, we're here. There's people, there's an HEB right here next to us. There's people all over the place. And so, so you guys get rolling, and in talking about, I mean, because we've talked to businesses that have been around for a long time, including ourselves. We've been open 30 years, that are going through something they'd never gone through before.
Right.
And let me assure you, there's not a business plan anywhere in anybody's book out there to deal with what we went through here in COVID. Right. And I say went through, we're still going through it. Right. Yeah. And so you start up, you're about 6 weeks, 8 weeks before really kind of the shutdown kind of started closing everything up. And so, I mean, again, we were talking about tap a little bit in here with another broken egg, and talking about, you're getting your feet up underneath you, and then all of a sudden it's, hey, this isn't how this is going to work. You're going to have to close down. You have an option. Your single one option really is drive up, take out kind of option, and that's
not the model. So we have a great product, and I do want to talk about what we offer, because people really don't know. The name is a blessing and a curse, right? Truly. But our model is not set up. People would say, well, why don't you just deliver? And why don't you just, couldn't you move? It's so funny how people don't understand how things work, as far as business and setting it up. Well, why don't you just move to a place where you can have a drive-through? Like, because I bought this.
Yeah.
I built it here. I signed a lease
yeah.
and it's 10 years long. And I put all the money into building this out.
Well, and again, the plan was never for you guys to open this place for it to be a drive-through.
And it wasn't ever going to be a drive-through.
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't fast food. It's fast casual. And there's a difference in that.
You wanted the experienced people walking in, going through the process of building their meal that they're having, and then enjoying it there. Maybe they take it with them, but the idea is that they're going to sit down and enjoy
having
it.
them build it, and it's cooked there. It's not sitting on a warmer. It's not. It hasn't been cooked. They don't. It's not ordering from a menu that we've already pre-built everything. We build it as they order it, and then it has to roll through that oven for a certain amount of time, and then it's packaged and it's best served
hot
right then and there.
And so I've got to make the assumption here that when your husband and you are looking for what's that business, what's that restaurant that we want to bring to town, it probably, because you can open another burger place, you can open
another wings joint, right?
You can open barbecue, you can do all of those things. But I'm sure that the two of y'all are probably looking at this and going, okay, here is something that nobody's really probably even heard of. Because are y'all the only franchise here in Texas, or is there one other location?
Actually, there's one other location now, and that's at Port Arthur, and we know that that franchisee well. We are friends with him now. Through this process, we helped him. Through different things that we knew he would run into as far as building. But we actually secured with the corporation. We wanted the college markets in Texas, and so we invested a lot of money. We secured the college markets in Texas, which included College Station, which is where we were going to start, make sure things were solid, and then we were moving to Huntsville and Waco and Lubbock and Nacogdoches, and so there were big plans.
Yeah, in the college town backyards, basically, because you knew that's.
I knew this would appeal to college students.
There's some things that just kind of never leave, and when you go to college, mac and cheese is kind of one of those
just how you get through life sometimes.
Yeah. So the idea was to bring that in, kind of put it in here, not so much as a test, but more because in your head you're going, this is going to be successful. We'll figure it all out here, and then boom, 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 and start securing those in other locations. So, and I think, again, that's probably something people listening here on the podcast probably didn't realize. They're just assuming this is a one-shot deal here. Yeah, somebody franchised and brought it in, but there was a much larger plan.
There was a big plan.
Big thought process down the road for this.
For sure.
So, and again, opening this deal in really the middle of COVID, once you kind of get everything going, because I know my wife and I and my kid, we came and visited y'all when y'all first got open, and you were kind of talking earlier before we sat down of we're working out the kinks, trying to figure out how this all works and getting, refining the process, right?
Exactly.
And then here comes the close down, and now you're forced to look at a business model that doesn't exist, that there's no plan in a book. Yeah, the franchise model's not sitting there going, oh, okay, so it's like a ripcord, like in case of COVID, pull here.
Right.
It's you're trying to figure it out. We here in this business, and I've used it on the podcast a couple times, we refer to it as pivot. You have to now figure, okay, I can't just close this thing up, because we again didn't build this thing to let it sit for 6 months empty, doing nothing. And there are still, like you said earlier, there's still bills to pay. We still had, nobody's over here going, hey, don't worry about this, don't pay this, you're all good. And I think there was a perception there for probably some people during that COVID shutdown deal that, okay, well, landlords are going to be all good with it. But like you said on the backside there earlier.
In the beginning, they were. They
were hey, but
gracious.
Again, they're probably thinking the same thing. Like, we're probably only talking, because what
3
was
months.
it? Just close it up for 2 weeks and we'll be back at it, and everything will be great. So they're, again, not seeing long-term either in this. So the idea for a landlord to go, hey, no problem, man, we got you for a few months here and we'll be okay.
And we'll tack it on. It was all tacked on for 2021. So now my rent's going to be higher all through 2021, like a lot of people, because they deferred 3 months of rent at the beginning.
Yeah, listen, landlords are not in a nonprofit organization.
No, they're not.
Right?
They've got bills to pay too.
In the same sense that you're looking to grow your business, they're looking at that same thing. And so, but I think also some of them also understood, and a lot of those, and again, this is kind of a shout out to those landlords that have really helped and worked with not just businesses, but even people that are out there, whether it's, they're living in rental homes or whatever. They saw the big picture of listen, if I put a clamp down here, then I'm probably going to force this out, and I'm going to go from this to nothing.
Right.
So can I run with little or nothing for a little while to get back to where we need to get to. So the smart ones were the ones that were out there going, we're going to figure this out together. Yep. And then, but there were a few people obviously and that didn't take that business model, and that probably forced the hands of many businesses that had to close up because they didn't get that work with. So you were fortunate enough that you had a landlord that was working with you through that process. Century Square's over there going, hey, we got it, no problem
Jones Crossing
here.
was the same. They, they said, we don't want to lose you. Yeah. We like the concept too. We believe it has potential. We know you're going to be okay. What can we do? How can we help you? And they've done as much as they can. Yeah. And I believe that.
Yeah. And so you built in a location that you're landlocked in Jones Crossing. I mean, are you between Smush and...
Between Smush and an open space Clip? Right now, but Sports Clip is on the other side of Smush. But I kind of think of it as like we're between... where Chick-fil-A is on the corner and H-E-B is a big anchor store. So we're right there, but we're facing away where nobody sees us on the road. Right. We're facing a pond that's supposed to have high-rise apartments, that was one of the draws of the location is people will look out their balcony window and see iHeart and, come for dinner. Yeah. And of course that's been delayed. I mean, all of these developments have been delayed.
Yeah. And I mean, so when you're building and you're looking at it, again, same kind of deal we were talking about earlier where you're looking at, down the road here, if we can get to here, this is going to be awesome.
Phase 2 is coming at the end of 2020. And now phase 2 is not phase 2 anymore.
Yeah, phase 2 has turned into like a 5-year project for a lot of people now. So you guys get there, you get open, you get a few weeks underneath your belt. Now all of a sudden things are changing. You're seeing the transition of COVID kind of taking effect. Students go home, which is a bad deal for you guys because
it was awful.
I mean, listen, if you lived here, you've lived here long enough, but if you live in College Station, you understand. We joke around about it when we live here because we go, oh, Christmas time.
Yeah, we can go to a restaurant and actually not have to compete.
Yeah, there's not an hour and a half long wait here. We're going to be able to get in and there's not going to be any line to get in. But then what happened was that started getting extended. Then you started hearing, okay, well, spring break. All right, spring break, we were expecting that anyway. That wasn't going to be that big a deal. We knew that was going to happen. But then a week past spring break. Okay, 14 days. Yeah, then they'll bring everything back. Well, then you start realizing it's not coming back. Right. Like we're going to go virtual. Well, now at this point, going virtual and you're still not allowed to open. And so, now you're, and I don't want to say your base because your college students are not, they're a big chunk of your business, but that's not necessarily the base.
That's not the only people we want to sell, meals to for sure.
Families, people who are quick on the go, people with kids. And those are all in this line of potential customers for you. And so, but knowing that, now all of a sudden you start seeing kids. I mean, because I've talked to a bunch of them where, listen, I'm going to put my kid up at A&M and you're going virtual. It's time to come home. So you can do this from our bedroom. We can save the money. So now kids are breaking leases, subleasing out, and they're leaving town. And so, and that's not everybody, but that was a big chunk of them. They closed down the dorms. I mean, a lot of stuff started happening there. So people are scrambling in a quick hurry. Now you've had to pivot, and now you're trying to figure out, okay, I can't open my doors because nobody can sit in here, but I can do were you doing curbside?
Well, so we did curbside and we did takeout, but we were behind the times on delivery, and because it's not part of our model, it's not part of something that we were prepared to hire somebody to deliver. Sure. And so we, of course, got on with the third-party delivery systems, which takes time to set up accounts and put all that together, give them for them to build the menu. We, it was one of those things where we had so much business walk in those first few weeks that we didn't even have time to set that up. We didn't want, and interestingly enough, we were concerned about our employees. Like, the way that third-party delivery works is there's a tablet for every single delivery service. So we are on, right now we have Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Favor, and Aggie Foods, 5. That's 5 different tablets that ding, and sometimes they ding lightly and sometimes they ding louder, and there's not a volume adjustment, and the fans and the ovens or things are going, and so there's 5 different tablets that you have to track. And we had a line out the door, like, we don't have time for the tablets. I mean, at that point, we're like, we'll get the tablets later. We'll be fine. This is good. And so then everything went to nothing. I mean, we lost 95% of our business overnight. And we're like, oh my gosh, pivot. We have to get on the delivery services. So we set those up. But we were new there. Now everybody's on the delivery service. I mean, I is halfway through the alphabet. I mean, we've dropped down, and we didn't have the budget to do all of the extra that you can pay to be up at the top.
Right.
And so it was learning for us through that and getting that going, and it did help, but it was a huge drop off, and that's not our model. Again, it was that's not how it's supposed to work. And the other thing being that I lost my train of thought.
Well, no, also understanding like those services that are out there, just so people have a good understanding of that, those aren't free.
Oh, not to us. No, they're not. They take up and they vary. They vary in their percentage. And of course, competition and capitalism helps with that. But they take up to 30% of the sale.
That's crazy.
Not 30% of the profit, 30% of the sale.
Right.
And in a restaurant, and you can research this online, restaurant owners aren't making bank.
Right.
Restaurant owners are sometimes doing well to get 5%.
Right.
5% of the sale.
And so at this point, you may look at that as a lifeline if you're a small restaurant and you're starting up and going, okay, we can still deliver to people.
Somebody's going to eat I Heart Mac and Cheese, and they'll come back later when they aren't the delivery service.
My $10 menu item to me now is $7 in my drawer. That's not $7 profit. It's set. Those dollars have to account for all the bills to create
food
that.
And the labor and the.
Yep. And now all of a sudden, here's minimal, if any, margin that's still left in it. Right.
So that's why if you pay attention, if you're really paying attention, and a lot of people don't, food through the delivery services is more expensive, and it's significantly more expensive because in order for the restaurants to make enough money to pay the bills, not to make the profit, but to pay the bills and maybe get $5, 5 cents on the dollar, they have to raise the price a little.
Well, and it's a convenience-based purpose.
It is.
It's the idea of like, I don't want to leave my house, right? Yeah. And what are you willing to pay for?
I'm safe leaving my house. I mean, we understood.
Right. What do you want to pay for convenience? But still understanding that if you're ordering through that service, that there is a chop that's coming out of that restaurant. It's not, and that's a misperception. I think it's the idea that I think, okay, well, at least I'm ordering from them, so they're getting something.
Right.
And I think, if you know the business and then you know the profitability on the backside and you know what thin margins those are, and then to understand, like, I appreciate the fact you're ordering from us. We love to get our product out to you. It would have been a lot better. Maybe we could have drove by and picked it up.
Right. And so we have an app that people didn't know about because we're brand new. And so we have an app, and you can order and pay with the app. And in fact, when you do that, you get loyalty points, and they build up for $10 in free food for every 100. So when you do the math, that's like a 10% discount overall. And, and you can order, pay, and pick it up. And it's almost the same. Yes, you do have to leave your house. And I understand the convenience, and sometimes it's just not possible. But then you actually get the price that we have set. Yeah. You spend less money. It's just gas and time to come and get it. And that works. That works.
Or
too.
You pre-plan it out. I'm going to be over in the area. I'm leaving work.
I'm going to
H-E-B.
If you're going to the grocery store, that's what was so attractive of that location.
Well, and so I mean, these delivery apps do well because of convenience, but also most of these apps now are coming into place so that you can pre-order something. So I don't have to come in and go, okay, Laura, I'm here to order from you, and I'm going to have to wait 10 minutes for my food to get ready. I can say, look, I need it ready at this time. Drive by, here's your food, pay, gone, and you're out the door. And the profitability stays with the restaurant, right? And that's really a key piece that I think people don't understand in using those other delivery service apps, is that profitability is not going into the pocket of the restaurant owner. It's going into the pocket of the service.
Yeah, we didn't raise the price so that we could make more money. We made the price so that we could maybe make almost the same amount as if you'd walked in.
Well, and as a restaurant owner, you don't want to be stuck in with a delivery service that you got to go, okay, we're going to have to raise the prices here because of what the delivery service is charging us. I mean, it's a complex it's a complex back road method over here for how those businesses work. But if you're a consumer, all you see is it comes to my door.
Well, and the thing about it is people don't understand too is that everybody you want to build that into your model to be convenient for people, but it's about 5-10% of your business, if for us maybe. And so when COVID occurred and they shut us down and we couldn't have dine-in, it became 100% of our business.
Absolutely.
And when that's 100% of your business, I mean, you just do the math. It means about a 90% drop in sales. Yeah. And it just
The uncertainty during all of that. So like you said earlier, the uncertainty of people not wanting to venture out and, let me stay away from here because any of these public places are places that I can catch it and all that kind of stuff. It all is working negatively towards you. So walk me through the process here. We start through the process here locally of, okay, Laura, you can now go to 25% capacity in your business. So to walk me through when 25% capacity comes, what does that look like for you?
What that looks like is we have to separate out tables or move tables and find a place in a very small space to stack chairs and make sure that we are in compliance so that we are first and foremost, keeping the community safe, and B, following the rules so that somebody doesn't come in and tell us we can't do this anymore. We wanted to do it right. And so the 25% capacity resulted in a little bit more business, but again, people are they're changing their habits, and that's the I think one of the scariest parts for me as a restaurant owner in this community is, I have mine. So just a little bit more back. I have 2 degrees in psychology, so I understand human behavior in ways that some people may not.
Sure.
Once you've changed a habit, it's difficult to go back.
Yeah. And
it only takes 30 days to establish a habit once you're doing something consistently, which is great for self-help. And if you want some, give me a call. I might have to start that business up again. But
I'm consulting.
Yeah, that's right. It's great, for that kind of thing. But when you change your habits and people say, I'm not going out anymore. I read an article a month or so ago from the Texas Restaurant Association said 40% of people had not visited a restaurant since March. 40%.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And so that means that 40% of the people have gone more than 30 days, 60, 90, 120 days. They've gone now not visiting restaurants. They've seen they're not spending that much at restaurants. They've changed their habit.
Yeah.
There's a percentage of those people who will not, for a very long time, switch back to attending the restaurants. And so there's a bit of a permanent loss in the industry of customers.
Even if the perception is safe, right? Like as a business, there's 2 things you don't want to do. You don't want to make the news or public media social media or anything as being a spreading organization.
Oh my gosh.
And you also want to be identified when people walk into the business as clean, safe. We're doing everything we're supposed to do. We're asking you to wear a mask when you come in so that we can get you in, get you out, and you felt confident in the way that we handled you when you came in, right? So 25% turns to 50, 50% turns to 75. Several of the places that I've talked to, restaurant owners here in town, said, there's not much of a difference between 50 and 75 because now it's no longer percent, and again, this is the perception. People are out here going, businesses are back to 75.
They're going to have 75% of their business. No.
Right.
That's not true.
And the idea of it is you can be at 75% capacity in your building, but you still have a 6-foot distance that overrides the 75. Yep. So now it's like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of square footage for tables to begin with. It doesn't mean I get to go back to 75% of the tables that I had in there because I still have to hold this 6-foot spacing everywhere. So there becomes a point where if it's not 100%, then it could, even if it is 100%, and I still have to maintain 6 foot, I'm landlocked at one point.
And depending on where you are located, and this is the case for so many businesses or so many restaurants, even you can't adapt fully to maximize your space. I noticed one of the restaurants up in Brian Kearney's, they turned their entire parking lot into outdoor seating, which was, I was like, that brilliant. That's awesome. Yeah. Now you're parking kind of on gravel and maybe on the street or walk if you have to, but we need the space to seat people so that it is, again, safe. It meets all the rules and the regulations, but we've got to have the business in order to pay the bills.
Right.
And so those restaurants that are kind of, like you said, they're landlocked, they're stuck in spaces that's the only space I have.
Yeah. What can you put outside? One table?
I've got two small tables outside against the glass. That's 4 people max at any given time. We talked about, let's buy a bunch of tables from Sam's and stick them in the parking lot. We don't have a lot of cars right now. And of course then there's liability and all that kind of stuff. So, but there's a lot of things you can't adapt to, and the things that you're forced to adapt to cost money. So when you move to this model, even people don't understand, moving to a full takeout model, it is about 5 to 6% more expensive for me to put a bag, a take-home bag, take-home silverware, a lid, the lids, every lid. You can't imagine. Like, I never thought I'd be the restaurant owner that when somebody dropped a sleeve of cups, they're opening the sleeve of cups and they fall on the ground. That hurts me. It physically hurts me. In fact, we did it. It's so funny. We did it the other day. And I mean, you have to throw that away. It's touched the floor. I'm like, can we wash them? Can we sanitize them? Like, oh my gosh, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No matter how much it costs, that's money out the door.
Well, and so I want people to hear that real clearly, because I know Justin touched on it when he interviewed on his podcast, where he said, nothing has gone down in pricing.
Oh my gosh, no.
Supplies have gone up.
Gloves are 3 times more expensive now, and we have to wear them at all times, not because of COVID, but because of the health department and restaurant regulations.
Yeah, and the other thing he had talked about was availability of supplies. So it's also this idea, like maybe you were using a supplier where you're getting stuff from, now all of a sudden, that's completely gone, because you got all of these takeout things happening. So he was talking like a good thing that he brought. Again, I didn't think about it until he was having the discussion about it. He was saying the food shell clams, you put things in, you clam. He's like, everybody's ordering. Every restaurant needs them. Every restaurant needs packaged silverware. Every restaurant is going to need more condiments that have to go, and everything else. That inside, when the business is open, you're planning for this percentage of stuff, because it's grab and go as you're there. And literally everything that's going out the door for you has to carry all of those things.
Higher cost.
Yeah, and it's not like, as a business owner, you don't want to sit there and go, okay, can I give you one package of this, one package of this, one package of this? I mean, you're trying to control expenses inside.
But you still don't want to you still want your customers to have a good experience so that they come back. You don't want to make it inconvenient for them. And that is true. But it immediately, truly, just the shift to, from 10% takeout to 90% takeout, it ate up all the profit.
Yeah, and so, my wife and I ate out at a restaurant here last night. I'm going to give you an example of something. We ordered a bunch of stuff, and it was actually a family eat out, but a bunch of stuff came to the table, had a ton of like plastic wrapped silverware. And then we ordered something else, and more plastic silverware came out. And we start clearing the table and start busting the table up to throw everything away. The guy comes over to get the trays, and I have one of those plastics we haven't
still
opened.
Wrapped.
Yeah, and I'm like, listen, I'm not going to throw it.
Gold.
Yeah, I'm like, don't throw this away. I gave it to the guy, and I'm like, take this back. Because again, the more I do these, the more I talk to people, the more I realize, like, you're throwing money away from that owner if you're not recycling things that you never use.
Every napkin costs money.
Don't go in there like normally you may go in and grab a handful of 50 napkins and walk out with it, grab what you need.
Salt and pepper.
But just understand, you're literally pulling the profits from that restaurant owner. And so, again, I just think of it a lot differently being in here. And I think people who listen to people who are in here and understand the expenses that are associated with that.
You start seeing it.
Yeah,
you
like
really
start
seeing
going,
it.
I never really
oh
thought
my
about
gosh,
that.
Yeah,
I mean, what's a single package fork really worth, And so, like you said, it's gold to these restaurant owners that are trying to cut corners everywhere to shore everything up so that they can still survive.
So they can just make it through January.
So, the COVID part was supposed to be at the end of this, but that's okay. I mean, we just got into it. No, that was my fault. So what I do want to talk on is I want to talk on your menu a little bit, because one of the things we talked about is the misperception that people see the name and they just assume like it's just a bunch of varieties of mac and cheese. And again, I'm going to say I was guilty as well. Not here recently, because I know it, and I went and tried it and got to see the menu, and I was really kind of like
blown away,
dumbfounded by looking at the menu. I'm like, I did not realize there are so many variations, nor that there is other stuff on that menu as well too. So we were talking about what's offered in your restaurant. And so first, let's kill the perception that this is not your mom and dad's mac and cheese that they made out of a box. It's not microwaved. It's not any of that stuff. So this is fully cooked. This is fully cooked. I'll say pasta, because it's not even all just mac and cheese. But and then you have all of these other variations of that. And so one of the things that we were talking about before we sat down was what your other options are outside of just that. So I want to start in with, let's talk about how the model works. Like if I walk in for the first time, I don't have a clue as to how your business model is. and again, you were saying, how many people go, oh, I've seen that place and I want to come.
Been meaning to try it.
Yeah, so let's walk them through. If you're walking in the doors for the first time, it's a little overwhelming.
It is. There's a lot of options. And I was actually just trying to look up on my phone that we have a graphic that shows it's like, 1.3 million, 247,000 combinations possible. I mean, it's in the millions. It's 1.3 million and change of different combinations that are possible with your mac and cheese or your grilled cheese sandwich, or your vegetable bowl or your quinoa bowl. I mean, there's so many options. It's not even, I mean, it's they calculated it.
Yeah. So again, don't walk in assuming this is
that it's
just
only pasta. No,
this
is not just a carb fest. We actually have a lot of different options, and we do ask, like, have you been here before? If not, let me walk you through this. And so we have something called a build your own. And so this is that fast casual concept. You walk in, it's like a Subway or a Chipotle. You walk in and you decide, what am I going to put this on? I'm going to put it on tater tots, which is one of the things that we make the least. Like, it's like a loaded baked potato when you take a bowl of tater tots and then you put cheese sauce and vegetables and meat and cheese on top of it. And some people love it, and they don't, but you don't even know. You don't even realize that it's an option. You can choose broccoli or cauliflower, or a combination of those. You can have quinoa, or you can have broccoli, cauliflower, and quinoa. You can have pasta. You can have gluten-free pasta. And is that all the bases? Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to think through my menu.
You're like, I work here.
So you pick a base, and then from there you step over and you pick unlimited number of vegetables. What do I want? We've got jalapenos, red peppers, corn, onions. I mean, like carrots, celery. Right. All the vegetables, not all the vegetables. I'm sorry, not all the vegetables. All the vegetables you see, all the vegetables you see. No peas actually. I wonder if there's a recipe with that. You pick your vegetables and you throw those vegetables in there, and then you go to the proteins and you pick a protein.
Right.
And so we've got like ground beef. We've got bacon. Think of macaroni and cheese and bacon. Okay. Bacon goes on everything, right? Everything's better with bacon. Right. So we've got, ground beef, bacon, pepperoni, short rib, which is awesome. And it's one of the most popular, but beef prices have gone up.
Right.
Short rib now costs us way more than it did when we opened.
Right.
We do pulled pork, and we do meatballs. And so there's lots. We had lobster. We have a lobster bowl that is really phenomenal. It's got a little white truffle oil in it and some scallions, and it truly is. And a lobster bisque. It's amazing. It's expensive because it's real lobster,
right.
and it comes. It's market price, but it's still, we have all of these protein options, and then you get 2 slices of cheese on top of that, and it's not processed cheese. So it's cheddar, it's white cheddar, it's Swiss, it's mozzarella. And we also have Parmesan cheese. And so, and I forgot the sauce. You got to ask the sauce. So we got cheese sauce, which is our signature cheese sauce. And it's designed, Chef Michael Bloom, designed the cheese sauce to be a very broad palette. So it's not super salty, doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own, because it's designed to take on the flavor of all these ingredients you add to it.
It's not designed to overtake.
No, it's not designed to be. It's not Kraft mac and. This is not your Kraft mac and cheese.
Right.
The cheese does not make the mac and cheese. It's all the things that you put with it that take on the flavor. And so we've got that, but we also have an incredible it is gluten-free. We have a vegan, so it's dairy-free cheese sauce, quote unquote, because there's no dairy in it whatsoever, but it's made with coconut milk and some spices and different things, and it's actually really good.
So I noticed, and you were talking about all this, and so I think it was day before yesterday, somebody commented, I think it was on the BCS Meals and Deals, they commented on there like, I'd like to go, but I'm not doing carbs right now. And that was I watched you interact with them on the backside of going, well, listen, you can still come and eat with us, and we're not, we're not going to load you with a bunch of carbs, even though you hear the name.
Yeah.
We have cauliflower.
We have a signature dish called Skinny Sweet and Spicy, and it's got mango habanero sauce and an Asian sesame, and then it's vegetables. It's all on a cauliflower and broccoli base.
But like you said, in that 1 million blah 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 combinations, I mean, you're not hung in with just that. I mean, you can come in and say, okay, well, let's make your base cauliflower, or let's go to quinoa or something like that's a little more healthy for you, and build off of that base.
Right.
And so I literally, if I wanted to walk in and get a bowl of cauliflower with meat on it, and I've got a dairy allergen problem, so you now give me my lactose free problem.
Yeah.
I mean, so I can
do that.
You can build it all out.
I can do that.
And what's funny is there are more and more requests. So I have a sister-in-law who has the gluten-free, every time we go out. And we joke around about it because...
Right. Give her a hard time.
Listen, if you're a gluten-free person, this is going to sound really familiar to you, but she is the last one to order in our group every time because it's going to be this, hey, can I get this instead of this? Can you substitute this? Do you have this as an option if I don't do this? And so now you walk into your restaurant, I know that I'm walking in and have that option already available to me, and I can build it from ground up without feeling like I'm the one out. Yeah.
Right, you're imposing. And here's the important thing, and we've had to stress this with our employees, because not everybody understands that gluten-free is not just a preference.
Right.
Gluten-free is often
how you handle it.
Yeah, gluten-free is often a debilitating dietary restriction that if gluten crosses your lips, you get violently ill and you stay ill, and it's awful. You throw up and your stomach hurts and you cramp, and sometimes you end up in the hospital. So gluten-free is a lifestyle, and they don't have a lot of choices, and everything that they do is more expensive. And so we pride ourselves and want to impress upon our staff that, it's a protocol. It's not just the food, it's protocol. They can't cross-contaminate. So we have a gluten-free knife. We have a gluten-free cutting board. We have, nothing touches the gluten-free stuff that has possibly had gluten in it or near it. And we make sure.
You broke this down on that post. I mean, you post like 7 steps. Like, here's all the things that we do.
Here's the things we do to make sure that you are safe.
Yeah, when it doesn't affect me and I hear gluten-free, the first thing I just think of is like, okay, they can't eat bread or they can't do this or whatever. But it is the idea that the cross-contamination piece is more important really than what the product is, because I can create the product, but if I'm using the same utensils, the same bowl, the same everything else, I'm probably going to cross-contaminate by doing that instead of having my own method and my own line of stuff.
So many people that are gluten-free like that, or they have a lactose intolerance, but it's really the gluten-free, the celiac disease. They don't eat out because they can't. They can't trust it. They've tried
options?
it. It's gluten-free on the menu. They eat it. They spend the rest of the night throwing up. That's unpleasant. And so we really, really want to be the restaurant that they know they can come to and they can get a meal that's not going to make them sick by accident, not by intent. And it really is. I even had somebody ask me, do you strain the regular noodles in the same bowl as your gluten-free noodles? And I was like, dang, I never thought about that. Fortunately, the answer was our regular pasta comes in pre-cooked, so they never cross. I'm like, score for the gluten-free.
Yes, we did.
Yay!
So, and I watched a lady again on BCS Meals Deal say, somebody needs to open a gluten-free restaurant. And in this particular situation, you're serving the community in that vein that she's asking for without her probably realizing all of the options that she has.
Who with a gluten-free intolerance even opens a post about mac and cheese?
Right.
They don't because they can't eat it, and it hurts them because probably as a kid they had mac and cheese and they love the flavor, but they can't have it, so why torture yourself?
Well, and how many people are not coming and visiting your restaurant because they think that is the baseline of everything?
Well, let me talk about the sandwiches, because I actually prefer the grilled cheese sandwiches that we make over anything else we serve, because it's phenomenal. So you think about taking 2 slices of sourdough bread with a butter on them, and you put them through the oven. So it's more like a melt than a grilled cheese, but we're calling it grilled cheese because that's what the corporate office decided to do. So yes, I understand it's a melt, but we're calling it grilled cheese. We put 4 slices of cheese on every grilled cheese, whether that's all you're getting or whether you're going to put onions. This is my favorite. Munster cheese, 4 slices of Munster cheese, onions, bacon, and broccoli. And you put that through the oven, and you bite into that, and it's like a grilled cheese you've never had in your whole life. We have a menu item called the Best of Both Worlds, which is very popular, especially with like football players that can eat like that many calories in one sitting. And it's a grilled cheese sandwich with I think it's got 2 different kinds of cheese on it, and yes, it does, as I'm thinking through the recipe. And it's got the 2 different kinds of cheese plus short rib, barbecue sauce, and macaroni and cheese on the sandwich. And so it's a macaroni and cheese grilled cheese sandwich. And it's phenomenal. It's amazing. It's one of our most popular items once people have tried it.
Yeah, and again, it's breaking out of the concept that when I hear it, the first thing I think is everything's just in a bowl, and I'm just going to run through and I'm going to put it in a bowl and I'm leaving. I mean, the sandwiches is the option as well. They're being able to fill in these roles and these needs that people have, whether it's dietary, whether it's whether it's just a preference. This is how I like it. This is how I don't like it. I think when I went,
like I'm on a diet. I'm like, oh girl, we got keto. We can help you.
Yeah, I had the buffalo. I think it was the buffalo chicken one was what I had. And so again, it's that process of I get to see it all built. It comes out to me. It's hot. We get to sit there and enjoy it. And, everybody at my table, I think everybody at the table in the family that we brought, all of them had something different. Right. And so desserts.
Yes. And so we've got two dessert options. One of them is a prepackaged sea salt and caramel Rice Krispie treat bar, dessert bar that, you look at it, you go, but it's actually pretty good.
We had that one.
Yes. Yeah. And then the other one is our cookies. And the cookies, I can't tell you, they're just one of my favorite things. I might be a little bit famous for my chocolate chip cookies. If I showed you from my pharmaceutical, my cattle farm rep, like I supply him with cookies, and it's his crack. Like he's like, oh my gosh, I have to have some cookies. I do cookies, and I know cookies, and I do them well. And my husband makes me bring back cookies from iHeart. They are so good. We bake them there. We bake them fresh every morning, and they're small. They're mini cookies, but you get 20 cookies in a cup for $3.95. That's the equivalent of 5 large chocolate chip cookies, and they're amazing.
Probably should have scheduled this podcast after I
should have brought you cookies.
Yeah, I'm sitting there going, salivating in my head here. So, these options that you provide for everybody really needs, and this is why I wanted you on the podcast, because it really is to break the mold of the idea of just
it's not just mac and cheese.
The name pigeonholes you a little bit.
It does. It is. It stimulates people's thought process about mac and cheese, but it hurts us because you don't know what else is possible, and so it does. It's a pigeonhole. They've actually recently, they've just changed the branding, so we're now iHeart Mac and Cheese and more. So hopefully, and they're not going to make us do this, but like even the signs with the new franchisees will probably have and more as part of the sign.
Well, no, so again, so we break that mold of it. But really, the best way to break the mold, because we can't do podcasts all the time of iHeart Mac and Cheese to talk about all those different things. We wanted to get you in to talk about that, but really, the way that gets broken is somebody walks into your restaurant. They realize all the options that they have. They go through and listen, we are in an environment now where everybody sets their food down. They pull their phone out. They snap a picture of it. They put it on their...
they would. I do.
I'm gonna talk like I am in the know here, and that I'm not almost 50 years old and I'm out of the social media game
51.
Here. So they put it on their gram, and then they post it up, tell everybody where they're at, and they put a filter on it, which really your food doesn't need filters on it, but they put a filter on it and they send all that out. But that's really what you need. You need people walking in, going through the process, finding out how easy it is to build a meal that they didn't really anticipate they were probably going to have to begin with. I mean, if you're a repeat customer that's coming in, then you've got this idea. But your first time in, you walk in and you go, holy cow, like this is way more than I thought. You get this meal, you get done. You take a picture of it, you tag where you're at or whatever, you tag your location, let everybody know that you're eating there. And then when you're done, then what? You send it to your friends, word of mouth now. Oh my gosh, where did you get that from? But also the other part of that is, and this is the piece that I think a lot of restaurant owners will tell you, and we were talking about this before we sat down, is go one little step further, give a review, talk about, how good it was and leave that review, because if I'm looking for a place to eat, I tell people all the time, like I use multiple sources for where I go. I really don't. I'm not a Google guy. I'm more of like, TripAdvisor. I use TripAdvisor and I put in restaurant and I say, because I'm going someplace for the first time. I've never been there. I want to know what the top, 10 restaurants are or whatever. I mean, that's kind of how I find my way around. But it's top 10 because of the reviews. It's all those people that have put that stuff in there and pushed that up to the top. And so that's really, what restaurant owners need is they need that feedback, that encouragement from those people who've had a good experience. They've had good product to go one little step further and put it out. Not, on a personal Facebook page is great. And it's as good as how many people
see it. Right. Correct. But getting it out there further. And let me just say one thing to your point about top 10 is because of the reviews. Interestingly enough, and I learned this starting a business and finding out that because of the way some places we signed up with an ampersand and some places we signed up with the word and spelled out, it's not just that. There's an algorithm in those sites that have as much to do with the way that you have put your business out into the community as it does with the reviews that you're getting. So yes, you can see that it's 4.5 stars or 5 stars. And so you see that and it's raising to the top for that. But your listing doesn't actually pop up as the top 10 if your location and your address isn't exactly the same and that there's no typos, a comma hasn't been put in strangely, or the zip code doesn't match. We started out at Century Square at a different location. We had a different suite, and then they asked us, they requested that we move. That was one of the delays, and we agreed because they wanted the end cap to be longer, blah, blah, whatever it was. But we started out, and so our first, when we started when we put together the LLC for that restaurant, it had a different address on it. Well, all of that paperwork is out. It's like When Harry Met Sally, which is, those of you who aren't 50 won't even know what that movie was, but it's already out there. It's so hard to take back, right? Because it gets forwarded and this and that and the other. And so we've had this struggle with even sometimes now it will default and somebody will search the address on Google and it will put them by Fuegos. That's not where we are, right? And I don't even know why it goes there, but the address is not, because it's a new development, I don't know, but it's not our address. We've had delivery drivers looking for, where's suite number? And I'm like, that's not us. We're this one over here. But so it actually is, there's so much more to it that people don't realize. And so I wanted to say that because you look at a review and you go, oh, that's the top 10. The way that top 10 came about may not be as what you think. Some of that is structure. Some of it can be paid for and bought with advertising.
Yeah, sure.
And some of it then is reviews. But just be cautious of that. The other thing, though, is reviews in general. I am so thankful for this opportunity to have an audience to help people understand how reviews actually help or hurt a business. And I really didn't know it until I had a business during this social media age. We owned businesses in the 1990s before we went to work for the university. But I never had that social media. It's a beast.
Yeah,
it's a beast of it. It is.
It's its own business.
And you almost have to have a full-time person. Right. I spend 4 hours a night on social media, responding to people's comments, helping people understand, answering questions, when I otherwise might be enjoying, the latest show with my husband. But reviews are absolutely, they can make or break, and certainly in COVID time. And so I'm just going to beg people. I'm going to beg people. If you have a bad experience with a restaurant or with a business, any business, right, don't be so quick to get online and just blast that person. Don't crucify them before you give them a chance to correct their mistake. Yeah. If this is the third time you've been in and you've had that same thing every time, and every time you've talked to a manager and they blow you off and nobody makes it right for you, okay, that review is absolutely called for. Sure. I've seen reviews. I had a review once, and I'm not lying. I probably might still be able to find it. It said it was a 2-star review, and the comment was, "I haven't ever been there, but it looks good." Really? Yeah. Dude, 2 stars? 2 stars means the restrooms were crappy, the service, somebody told you to get lost. I mean, it's like, think about what you're doing. A 2-star review can hurt me. It pulls down my entire average. And so I'm going to beg people, if you have something negative, if you've got a negative experience, talk to the business first. Go to them first and tell them and give them a chance to make it better, because what your review might be is, hey, I had a bad experience here, but I took it to the manager. They absolutely made it right. They refunded. They treated me well, and I will be back. And that 1-star, 2-star, 3-star review could turn into a 4 or 5 because of the way they fixed the mistake they made.
Well, I'll take that one step further. So we had a similar situation happen where we had a 1-star review come through, and the person never spoke to any of the 3 of the owners of us here. They had an incident that happened that they weren't happy with. They left, gave us a 1-star review, called 7 of their friends who had never done business with us, wasn't even involved in this particular situation, and told them to go on and give us a 1-star review.
Oh, wow.
And so as I'm watching this transpire on my Facebook review, I see one, and then 2 minutes later, another one, and then 3 minutes later, another one review. And I'm just sitting there going, what is going on?
What has happened? Yeah.
And then I go back because I research all of them. And so I go back and
that's a lot of time.
Oh yeah. And so the first one I look at, I go, okay, this is a person that did business with us. Let me reach back to this person, find out what's going on. Shoot them a message. Hey, I'd love you to call me so we can walk this through, make this right for you. Right. But then I got 6 others. Well, what am I going to tell those people? Those people are just buddying up with their friend just to, let's get them good.
Support them,
let's get them good. Right.
Yeah.
And so then what people don't understand is I don't have the ability as an owner to go in there and delete those.
That's right.
People think that I somehow control those reviews.
In fact, you can't even, it's difficult to get the reviews off that are obviously not for you. I've had people
you got to send it
review HEB on mine, and the absolute nightmare of bureaucravy to get that off of mine so that I wasn't taking HEB's reviews. I got
you're sending it in trying to explain why it's a fraudulent review,
and it may or may not be removed.
You're not talking to someone in that process. We'll review it and let you know, right? And so it was pretty crazy. And again, small businesses, it's not like we have 10,000 reviews on there and this is just going to kind of wash in the mix.
Nope.
I mean, you got 100 reviews
especially
on
when
there.
You've just started out. It may be the first of 2 reviews, and now somebody searches you because you're new in town, and let's see what people think about it. Oh, 2 stars, I'm not going there.
Well, and I used to tell people all the time, I can't fix what I don't know, right? And so as a business owner, that's a critical statement to make when you're talking to people who may have an issue with your businesses. You may have dealt with someone that I didn't have a clue as to what your dealings were, or maybe it was perceived a certain way or whatever. And then I got to go research all of that so that I can call or have them come up here and see me face to face so that I can answer it and take care of that to the best, to the best of my abilities. Right. And so, and I think people look at that. This is, again, a valuable lesson for business owners that are out there. If you're looking at reviews and you're trying to figure out how to address those, not addressing them is worse than anything you could do, because I, as a person, if I go on a review, I'm looking to see if you gave me a 1, I would expect somebody's jumping in behind that to say, hey, listen.
Oh, wow. And you know what? And I'm the first person to say, what you are describing is unacceptable. Right. And I'm going to look into that, and I want to fix it.
And then you want to create it so that the possibility is there that person goes, okay, maybe I overreacted a little bit, and they go back and adjust it. Right?
Oh, exactly. And people don't even think about adjusting or deleting. They're like, oh, dude, sorry. No, please go back and adjust or delete or whatever. But I was thinking about another one. There was a 1-star review, and it said, wasn't as creamy as I expected.
Oh, gosh.
Wow, 1 star?
Yeah, thanks.
Jeez.
More creamy. Remember that the next time. So, but small businesses need that word of mouth, not just amongst their friends, but that word of mouth in reviews, that they're going online and they're giving those pieces. But be honest, to your point, if you had a crappy experience before you go, okay, you told me to go give a review.
That's right.
Pick up the phone, make contact, hey, can you have the manager call me if you're not there? That way they can get, they can get back to you, and you can walk through that experience with them and go, I termed this on my last podcast where I said it's white, black, and gray. White, we're right. Black, the customer's right. Gray, could be either way, but gray always goes to the customer. Yep. And so if you live in that world, you're most of the time going to handle almost virtually everything that's going to pop up. You're still going to make the customer happy, and you're probably going to get a different result than just the knee-jerk reaction that people tend to have when it's, okay, it's time to put on my social warrior hat here, and I'm fixing to take it to them, right? So since we're on the topic of social media, we'll flip to the next thing here. So the next thing that we want to talk about is I asked you how your week was going, right? So this all within a week literally transpired in your business, and that's why I'm grateful to have you here during this time, because we're literally right in the middle of all of that.
We are smack in the middle.
So we have an individual that goes on to BCS Meals and Deals, came into your business.
Yeah, actually, we'll back it up even a little bit more. I was at the open air market. They did like a little artisan market at Century Square last Sunday. Wonderful. It was a great event. It was well attended. It was like one of the best attended events they've had this COVID season. So it was very encouraging. But all the different local artists and stuff had set up their booths, and they said, they're like, bring it, come set up your booth, tell people about mac and cheese. I think I was the only restaurant out there that, that was actually actively, seeking business. And I was telling everybody, I was being super honest. I was like, have you been to I Heart Mac and Cheese? Oh, I mean to try that. If you don't, you please do soon, because we might not be here in February if you don't come now. And people are like, and the response, of course, was always, oh my gosh, of course, and I'll come tonight. And so somebody, and I won't call her out because I didn't ask if I could, but right. a lady that I spoke to, apparently at Century Square, posted on BCS Meals and Deals and said, I spoke to the owner of I Heart Mac and Cheese and they are in trouble. And it was a kind of a paragraph post of, right. Come on BCS, we got to help them. Let's show them some love was basically the message. And of course, I got on her post and, thanked her and everybody that asked a question or said, oh, I've been thinking. I'm like, oh, please do. So I really tried to interact with them on that post.
Right.
And that was Sunday. And
Little did you know.
Wow. And so Monday comes along and the first rattle out of the box, we're busy for lunch. And that's on a Monday. We're never busy for lunch at Jones Crossing. There's not a lot of lunch traffic in that area. For us anyway, there hasn't been. And plus, and Tap, God bless his heart, he really sucks the breakfast and brunch and lunch folks. And so he's everybody's over there and I'm looking and waving and we joke about that. But so lunch, people, and it wasn't crazy, but streaming in the door. I mean, my general manager going, look at how much we've done in this first hour. He's like, that covers everybody here. Like that, labor's done. You're like, wow, for this hour, right? Labor for this hour. Right. But, and so we were kind of getting excited. It's like, okay, it's going to be busy. It was his admin day. He's supposed to have an admin day. We were going to work on, this is how we do this. And this is how, this is what we need to do here. And he's like, no, I'm doing dishes, because this is, we might be busy today. It's a Monday. Wow. And so we went through the whole day and he didn't get his admin day. He's taking it. He's actually coming in and I'm telling you, I've got an awesome crew. He's going to come in tomorrow. We're closed, but Christmas Eve, he didn't have anything going. He doesn't have family in town. And so he's going to do his admin day on Christmas Eve. But, so it's pretty busy all day. Right. But then, it gets to be 5, 6 o'clock, 6:30 and everything it slowed down. And we were like, wow, what a day. This was really awesome. And I was already in my head kind of formulating a thank you post and on, to the community, like, you guys showed up. Oh, you just, you melt my I Heart Mac and Cheese. And so we talked to, and the two people on shift were managers. I mean, we are down to minimal crew and we made the choice to keep our mid-level managers as crew. So they're working in positions that really are meant for entry level, right? Because when we open Century again, we need people that know their business to take up. So my labor's a little high right now. But so they're working and I've got 2 managers on and they're going to close. We're closing at 8 because we shortened our hours too, because we were seeing no business from 11 to 12 and certainly nothing from 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. Sure. So we shortened hours to try and save some money. And so we're going to be closed at 8, a couple hours and we got this. You guys go home. The restaurant's sparkling clean. We got it. You guys go home. So dropped my manager off. He's got a car problem right now. So dropped him off and went home and sat down and I get a call. And he says, they're slammed. You got to come back and get me. And I said, okay. I said, I haven't even changed clothes. I'll get you. And this was like at 7:30. So we closed at 8. They called at 7:30. By the time I picked him up and we got to the restaurant, I'm trying not to drive and check the cameras at the same time, what's going on. We get there and it's like 5 after 8 by the time we got there. We were actually, closed technically, but the place looks like a macaroni bomb has exploded. It's everywhere. And they were explaining to me just what had happened. And so things stayed slow until about 7:28, 7:30. And they got a mobile order that was like 5 or 6 bowls. That's a big order because we make them 1 bowl at a time. And each bowl takes about 2.5, 3 minutes. And so they're making these bowls and they said it was just people started coming in. It was 1 couple and then it was 3 and then it was a family of 4. And they realized, it's starting to realize. And then the register froze. So they had a technical issue. And I think that's probably when she texted, when Ariston texted my general manager, Paul, and said, we need help. And so by the time we got there, they had weathered the storm. They had figured it out, but they told me, they said, gosh, this was so crazy. It was so insane. These guys are relatively new. You know, you go through people when this kind of thing happens, and they weren't around when we first opened Jones, and it was busy all the time. They've never seen it that busy. Yeah. And they're like, oh my gosh, that was insane. But maybe this means that the people that are gone can come back. And we're like, we hope so. Like, we have to sustain this. But if it's true, yes, it does. It means your friends can come back to work. But Ariston said to me, she's like, as soon as the last customer walked out, we just both sank to the floor. And I heard that, and it touched me. And so when I got home, and Paul and I stayed, we helped him clean up. We did the whole restaurant. We got it done in record time, and they went home, and we patted him on the back and thanked him. And I got home and I thought, okay, you know, I have to see this. I have to see what they went through. And so I backed up the cameras and I watched from 7:30 on, and it was just like they described. But it was grace under pressure. I mean, they literally, they made it happen. They did exactly what they needed to do. They were promoted for a reason. And truly, as soon as the last customer walked out the door, Cameron is his name. He walked her out. He shut the door, locked it, turned around, and fell to his knees. And he sat there in that position for about 15 or 20 seconds, just that way. And what you can't see and I took a still picture of it and I posted it with my gratitude. I'm like, you guys, this is what you've done for us. I can't, like, this is our day, and we're all in shock and awe, and it's awesome, even though we're exhausted, but thank you. And I posted his picture. And of course that resonates with a lot of people. It resonates with the community. It resonates with business owners, but it resonated with food service workers who have been that wanted to be on their knees, if not on their knees before, after a hard day, not with nobody realizing how hard it really is. Food service is hard. Oh, yeah. And so I put that picture on there, and what you don't see in that picture is the camera angle for my other employee was not as good, and so you really couldn't see her. But you look at the other camera, and as soon as he falls to his knees, she sinks to the floor, behind the line, and they just sat there for a minute, and then here's the beauty of it. Then they got up and they started cleaning. I mean, it's like, this is what we did this for. This is what we, so that they've got purpose and focus, and we've got something that gets them the money they need to pay their rent, and we've got a product that the public loves, and I want to be a destination that people come to, and like, hey, can we rent out the restaurant for our bridal party? Amen. We'll figure that out. We can do that. So, we wanted that to be there. And so I post midnight. Here I am at midnight, laying in the bed. And I did that gratitude post, and I put the picture on there, and even after midnight, people started responding. It was pretty quick. I was surprised at how many people. People are up at midnight. Oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one.
Night owls in College Station.
There are. I was actually surprised, because I thought, okay, post this, go to bed, answer all the questions in the morning. No, it was like bing, bing, bing. I'm like, oh, thank you, and like, oh wow, and like, oh cool, please come. And so I did that probably till 1:30, and then I went to bed. I woke up the next morning and told my husband, I'm like, there are 477 responses here, and he doesn't do Facebook. He's a little older than me, and he calls it Spacebook. Yeah. And so he's like, what does that mean? It's like, it means that people have seen it, and they either like it or they love it, or they give us a little emoji with his hug and a heart. I was like, it's all good. These are good. This is a good thing. Yes. He's like, okay, good.
All positive.
All positive. Well, by the time we opened the restaurant, that 477 had turned into like 800, 500, whatever. And then it was 900. And so it had gone viral. I got the call from KAGS, and they said, hey, we follow BCS Meals and Deals, and this is a big deal, and we want to come and interview. And so I'm like, I call my husband, I'm like, they asked me for an interview. Oh my God. I'm like, wow. And it really was. And there were like 77 comments, and I trying to keep up and still do my day. And so the next day was also busy. And we got a catering order that, on Monday we had a catering order. It's our first, to be honest here. Yeah. Something else that we do that people don't think about, and I haven't mentioned yet, but we can cater. We can bring bowls to you in large orders and make it we can customize it, although they've got a catering menu and they want us to kind of stick to it. At this point, I will cater
bets
anything.
are
In
off.
fact, it was a physician center that catered for their staff. It was a great order, and they were like, there was multiple bowls, and they're like, okay, we want to make them combos, and I'm like, oh wow. And so the combo has a drink, and I'm like, how am I going to carry 20 drinks in my car, because I'm not set up for this, right? That's not the model.
Yeah.
But I was like, and they're like, well, no, we'll just get gallons, and I'm like, gallons, I can get gallons. I'm right by HEB. I'll bring you gallons. It paid, done. I've got the gallons. And so, I'm going to adapt. Right now, I'm going to adapt no matter what. I'm going to meet your need, and we're going to make this something that people go, oh yeah, man, not Arab Man Cheese. They're a franchise, but they're taking care of their people in Bryan College Station, because that's what we want to do. So it really did. It turned into this viral sensation. We've had 2 days so far. I'm not on the cameras now. I'm not watching now, but we're open for business. And I'm guessing that today is going to be pretty strong as well. And so we're talking about 3 days during Christmas week, when we should have the lowest sales that we see all year. We've had 3 days that are as strong as what we usually see when all the students are in town and things are semi-normal, which is crazy.
For those people that aren't following, BCS Meals and Deals has 20,000 people awesome. Following on there, right? Plus, I think. And so when this whole deal turns into this viral, move forward, because it really just initially started with this one person who had a conversation with you, right? And she takes to it. She's like, listen, and advocating for the idea, I can't lose my mac and cheese.
That's right, because she loved it, right?
And so it turns transparency from her to the page, that then people are like, oh my gosh, and then you start interacting with the folks on that page. And again, this is, you're not the first this has happened to.
Right.
There's been others that have been transparent, came to the page, and then see the spike in the business or whatever. The problem that we see regularly right now is there are a lot of folks who, they drive around the backside of you and they see TAP over there, and they're going, oh, well, the recovery's
Line
on.
At the door,
all these restaurants are doing great. And then on the other side of it, there's the struggle. And it's not, there's some exceptions to the rule of what's going on, but still there is an overall general, especially in small business organizations, there's still a general lack of recovery that's happening there regularly, that's causing that owner to have to manipulate what they're doing, pivot, like we talked about, do something different to generate business. And nobody wants, Sam and I were talking a little bit on when we did his podcast, and we were saying that transparency of the business becomes critical in an environment like Bryan College Station, where you have been the recipient of the generosity of the community going, okay, we're going to support this person, right?
Today.
Today is my day to shop local, get my stuff done here, because they're saying that there's a need. And those people come in. What's interesting is you're talking about Monday night, and I don't think I even told you this before we sat down. So my wife and my daughter and I were driving through the parking lot there. We had a location. I won't comment where it was. Might have been Twin Liquors, but listen. I was a part of the bourbon exchange, and I had a bourbon bottle that was over there, had my name on it, so I can get people to confirm that. So we're driving through there, and as we drive by, I take a glance into, because I had read all of this and saw it from the previous day, and so I take a glance in there, and I told my wife, I go, man, they're really busy. And you had probably 10 people in there. It was about 7:30. I'm like, there's 10 people standing in line and they're ordering. I go, man, they're pretty busy tonight. So that's good, and turn around. Well, then the next morning I see your post. I see the post of your kid. Sorry.
I know they're all my kids right now, and that's another thing, man. These are my babies.
Yeah, on the ground, and your gratitude post that goes along with that, which really then resonated with a lot of folks. But again, showed the impact that the community can make by gathering to a focused point. Now, that all being said, your business won't get saved by that.
No.
And while it definitely went viral and brought it to the forefront for everybody, how many people tried it for the first time? How many people left out of there and went, I had a great meal and I feel good about myself because I supported the business that really needed the money that I was going to spend somewhere anyway. And the challenge though here locally is that those businesses that are struggling, the pride sometimes gets in the way for those businesses. The sometimes embarrassment. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can kind of go into that causes people to clamp up, and they're just like, well, I'm just going to have to figure this out.
Or they don't have the bandwidth. I mean, I'm a pretty energetic person.
Right.
I haven't slept 2 or 3 hours in a week now, a night, and I've got this social media thing that my generation didn't grow up with, and I'm learning to navigate that. And I have the benefit of having a great crew that isn't struggling. I haven't lost a general manager. I'm not having to work every single day in the restaurant. I want to be available, but I mean, there's so many other things that go on behind the scenes that there are people that just don't have time. And even just a quick, I think it was Juice It Up, Team Juice It Up. So somebody else posted like a gratitude to BCS Meals and Deals. Like, you guys have created this forum that has helped so many. We would not be here if it weren't for this.
Right.
And there are many businesses that feel the same and have said the same. And it's like. And there are a lot of people, so many people that you just don't know. And I explained this to KAGS, and it didn't make it into the cut on the news, but that's fine. I said, there is a storm coming, and this is not over. And to me, it almost feels like we're in the eye of this storm, where it kind of feels like things have gotten back to normal, and everybody's found their semi-normal. They kind of know that things will change a little bit, but it feels like it doesn't feel like it did in March and April.
Right.
And over the summer, but there is a storm coming. This summer has been the eye of that storm, and right now we're fixing to hit. The wind is fixing to hit the walls, and there are so many businesses that are in tent city.
Yeah.
We are hanging on by a thread. It is not just me. It's every small business out there, small boutiques, massage, people that do massage, CMTs, hairdressers, bars, bar owners. There's so many.
And every dollar is mattering to those guys, and they're trying to pull in every little dollar that they can.
And January's bleak.
The BCS Meals and Deals, it kind of just started as this, hey, if you're a restaurant, if you're whatever, post what kind of specials you're running,
and right? And they did it for it was because of COVID they started it. Yeah. There's like 4 admins. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, and I've been a part of that, and I've watched it, and you kind of, to an extent, that it's been going so long now, you kind of, unless I'm in the market that I want to eat out that night or whatever, you kind of desensitize to it at this point, right? But then all of a sudden, here comes this one post that's different from the other ones, and you're like, wait a minute, first off, this wasn't a restaurant owner, this isn't a deal, this isn't like somebody, this is somebody actually, but let me read this, and you stop and you take that little bit of time to read that, and then boom, it just blows up on the other side of that. But again, long-term aspect for you, while you're grateful for that post, and I see your gratefulness in your reaction and your reply to that, and people being able to see almost an immediate impact that they made by spending that money in there. The long-term game for you is still people that, I've been meaning to get by there. My family and I were going to come last week and we got sidetracked. We're going to get there. It's hey man, fulfill on that desire. Come and see us, then report on it, tell your friends, share it out, take all the pictures of the stuff you want in here.
Yes.
Take a picture of my menu and send it out.
Please do the social media part for me, so maybe I don't have to spend 4 hours every night posting and copying and pasting and sending it to Instagram. If everyone did their part with that every time they ate out, it's like people, and that's a psychology thing. It's it's a human behavior. When you have a bad experience, you want to share, you want to commiserate, you want to get that out there. When you have an experience that you expect or that is decent or it's right, it's just where it needs to be. You just go home and you're satisfied with yourself. And then, and then there's of course the stellar, they rolled out the red carpet, they named a dish after me, and they offered to put my kid through school. That gets a positive. I'll
push that out one step further. This is what I used to describe when I talked about customer service in the retail industry. This is one of the things I used to describe to people. If I asked you today and I said, tell me about your worst experience you've ever had, either with X or just in general in a restaurant or whatever, you could repeat it just like that. You know what the person was wearing. You know where you were sitting. You know what you had to eat. I mean, it is vivid. and memorable, right? And memorable. I'm just going to make my own words up as we go.
Called Merriam-Webster.
And then you talk about what's the best experience you've ever had, and it's foggy. It's, I've had several. Which one would I consider the best? It's not that boom right at the front that you have when there's an anger or a disappointment.
It's emotional, it's visceral, it's passion.
And so it's right at the forefront.
Right.
I mean, I almost say you can smell the time frame that you're there, right? And so, again, that's important for people to understand, because we do just kind of wash away the good stuff, but we really remember the bad stuff. And boy, I mean, if it's a bad deal, I'm going to make sure everybody understands it.
And that's the thing too. Well, we didn't go into this, and because I mentioned early on in the podcast, like, gosh, restaurants do well in Bryan College Station, let's open one. That wasn't the only deciding factor. We did some research. We looked at the population of the valley, of Brazos Valley. We looked at how many restaurants were already here. We looked at how many restaurants that served pasta only, how many restaurants were fast casual. We did the market research, and what we saw was there are over 200,000 people in town. If everybody ate at our restaurant once, that gets us like how many years of business. If it's the misperception is that I need somebody to come to Mac and Cheese 3 times a week. I don't.
Right.
I mean, if everybody would kind of work on spreading that out and making sure that they have visited, like how long has it been since you went to Copy Bridge or Casa Rod? I mean, I'm naming Sargento's. They're out in Snook.
Right.
I mean, how many people drive to Snook? Well, we did last night because we love Casa Rod. Yeah. But it's like the things that you don't realize that, there are enough people in this town to support every restaurant if everybody went out once a week.
Well, you had made a comment before we went on air where you said, I'm in visible range of Chick-fil-A, which the line is always.
And I've watched them with their line around the building every day.
Yeah. It's always long. It's right there. It's right in front of you. It's a visual reminder of how busy a place can get,
be.
Right? And then you had made the comment saying, if 5 of those people in that line made a decision to leave the line and come over and do business with me, then we would make it.
We would make it, and it wouldn't hurt Chick-fil-A. It's not going to hurt their business. They're really, I mean, and this is not in any way, because I don't want anybody to feel like I'm disparaging or encouraging you not to visit the fast food restaurants and the big chain boxes stores, but I read an article that said that they are all actually profiting more. They're doing better in COVID than they did before because they're set up for it. They're perfect. They've got the drive-through. They've already got the model. They've got they've got the food. Their food costs are low because as a huge chain, they have purchasing power. Right. I can buy the same thing from the same supplier that Chick-fil-A does or that McDonald's does. It costs me more because I don't have the big corporate account. Yeah. So those kinds of things, it's like they can afford a few customers for those of us who depend on those few to make it.
Well, and those profit margins are going to be a lot higher at the starting point where you're already starting off down here. They're starting off way up here, so they can afford a lot more things in that process too. And again, it's spreading the money around. It's spreading that love a little bit. Yeah. Like, listen, we're like you said, I'm not telling you don't buy McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and Whataburger and all these other places. But hey, maybe instead of going twice a week there, maybe you come once a week to that small business that needs you. And there are businesses that, Paisano's Pizza is one I'll throw out there. I never heard of them until we hit COVID. And you want to talk about places that you started seeing this go up is now it's delivery pizza, right? Right. But it was Paisano's, and people were spending money there. It wasn't Domino's, it wasn't Pizza Hut, it wasn't the big chains. And they on the backside of that, they're busier than shake stick at,
That's awesome.
but it's the social media of people who went home. They took a picture of their pepperoni rolls. They took a picture of their pizza. Yes. They put it out. It went up on Meals and Deals. And people on Meals and Deals were sitting there going, "Have you tried this place? It's awesome." But it usually starts with one little deal. Somebody's going, "Hey, thinking about pizza for dinner. Where do I
get the best sushi rolls?"
Yep. Yeah, it starts with a question, then people just tag on. And one question on a 20,000 person, a venue there. All of a sudden there's 145 comments of people who are on there, So, and again, that's a part of being a part of that page that's nice to see. And you're going to get, listen, you're not going to say, "I need a hamburger place." You're going to get 200 comments.
Yeah, nobody's asking where's the best cheeseburger.
Right. No. 35 different locations of different businesses that are on there. And again, in your world, you're such a niche business there that you don't typically tend to show up. as a recommended spot because somebody's not going, where's the best place
mac
to
and
get?
cheese? Yeah.
I
exactly.
mean, they're going, where now if somebody comes on there and says, I really want something unique, you're probably going to hit in there. But those questions don't get asked as much as the other place. People are, I need a good steak place, or I need this or whatever. But you really need and value those people who have the experience and share the experience back
Absolutely.
out. So one of the things you said you wanted to talk about on here, and I don't want to end this thing without getting on this, is what you're looking to do, even though you're in the middle of a struggle and fighting to keep your doors open. One of the things that you commented about was that you're looking to do something in your restaurant and reach this out into the community to let people kind of know what you're wanting to do with this. But even in the storm, even right where you're at, and trying to make sure that you're doing everything to keep your business afloat, one of the things that you wanted to do was you wanted a kind of a give back program here, and something that you're looking to do. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, there's two ways that we want to give back, and the one that just came to me like this last evening, I think. One of them being that some that people are familiar with in town, and especially organizations in high school and groups, they do profit shares. And so profit shares really isn't a share of the profit, it's a share of the sale.
Right.
And so we are happy to do, and my general manager and I agree, we'll do a profit share every day if it'll bring people in the door. And I will give 10% away to your organization, where you actually, and it helps because the organization then helps with the advertisement and the marketing. It's like, hey, everybody, we're going to do a profit share, and so it's a further reach. And I'm willing to share that on my page and all of my social media, like, hey, we're supporting, the women's shelter or this church or this group.
Let me jump in a little bit, because right here in this moment, the first thing when you say profit share, and I'm a parent of a kid that's in elementary school, first thing I think about is they don't refer to it as profit share for all those parents that are out there. So for those parents that are out there with kids, I'm going to throw the word out to you because you know exactly what I'm getting ready to say. Spirit night.
Okay,
right?
There you go.
So they refer to it as Spirit Night, and they send a flyer out to every parent, or they send an email out to every parent in the school, and they say,
I heart mac and
yes,
cheese.
this night,
this
between these hours, we're doing a Spirit Night. And it's the same thing. It's just not referred to as a profit share kind of deal. I get what you're saying, but again, how many people, how many parents, how many teachers, how many principals, Spring Creek Elementary, just throwing that out there just as a school, since it's one of my daughter goes to. But we do a Spirit Night almost every month. And so, and they pick a different location every month. So again, let me tell you what, man, you're going to throw some kids in a mac and cheese place, you're going to get a bunch of people that are going to show up. So this is a great opportunity for those guys that are out there to, again, support local. Not support big business, because I'm going to tell you, a lot of these Spirit Nights, listen up, guys that are doing Spirit Nights. If you're out there, you're an organization or you're a school, a lot of these Spirit Nights go to big business. Right? I mean, I've done a McDonald's, I've done a Chick-fil-A. I love you guys. My daughter loves your food. I'm not knocking you. But again, could we be using these to prop up small businesses in town that are struggling? I mean,
and they may not have heard of it. They may not, and it may not be something they've ever done. But if you explain what it looks like, they probably be willing to do it.
Yeah, and it's usually very last minute. My daughter is the world's worst at giving me this stuff. You know, hey, Daddy,
we have to go tonight.
Yeah, hey, Daddy, by the way, when we get done here and you pick me up from school 2 hours later, we need to go to Blue Baker and get something. So. But I'm good with going and spending my money at these small businesses that I know are struggling, and that I know that money is going to go. And I'm probably more likely to show up than I am to show up at the corporate world restaurant, right? So, again, I'm glad you brought that up, because it really gives us an opportunity to, again, push out and say, hey, if you're looking to do something, maybe it's for your group. Maybe, it doesn't have to be a huge school. It can be just for your traveling baseball team or whatever. Give an opportunity to come and talk to Laura and her staff over there, and let them show you what they can do and set up for you, and make it easy, make it transitional where, hey, listen, come in between these times. I can have extra staff ready for you. I can plan for all of that.
And here's the thing, your organization, you don't have to go door to door. You don't have to sell any cookies. You don't have to do anything except what a normal behavior, which is eat out with your family.
Absolutely.
And you tell all your friends to eat out with your family. So it's not like that thing like my husband used to do with Girl Scout cookies. He's like, can I just donate donate $100 because I
Can I
don't
buy
want
a
to
candy
sit
bar?
at Walmart door and sell cookies. Like, can
Yeah.
I just give the team, can I give the troop a cash donation? Like, yes, and we have to sit at the store.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's like you don't have to do anything. Your kids aren't forced into that corporate or that retail world of trying to sell something to get something back. All they have to do is tell everybody they know to eat here, and then what we like to do, and this isn't, and what I've learned, because I'm learning about how other profit shares work and how profit shares work in the big box world,
Right.
is I didn't know until I was told, like, you're doing that different. And I said, okay, because I've been offering, hey, we'll do a profit share for the whole day from open to close, and put a basket by the register, and anybody who wants to put their receipt in that basket and support your cause, I'll give you that share too. And they're like, ooh, and they're excited about that.
Yeah.
I can do that all day long, because you know what? That's the share for me. I can make it right now, but my restaurant might not. And so I'm willing to give what I would otherwise get in order to get people in the door so that they can taste the food, and then they'll come back. And then they'll tell somebody else that'll tell somebody else, and that's where that happens.
Well, and prior to sitting down here, you had said, "Look, I know there are people who are in worse shape than I am, and I'm just trying to help them. And I'm trying to give an opportunity here where I can give back as well too." And again, that speaks volumes for your character, because it's easy when you're struggling in the moment. Me, mine, give me. This is all me. This is going to pay this. This is going to do this. But quite honestly, it's usually when you let that flow through and continue to let it flow through, even when times are tough, that you get the blessing on the back end of that. And it's usually a blessing that you don't even see coming.
Right.
And so kind of like a Facebook post. But, and so the other deal, outside of the profit sharing.
The profit share, the other thing that came to me, and I'm hoping that I can set this up, and I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work yet, but I'm seeing more. Yesterday I saw two people in the parking lot of a very affluent part of town, is Jones Crossing, and a single mother had set up her car with her, and she had two of her three girls. She says she's a single mom with three girls, and she had nothing, and she needed some help. And I talked with her, and I did what I could, but which is included, promising to pray for her, but it struck me like, I've never seen that. I've been here for 10, 12 years. I haven't seen that. Not in this part of town. I mean, I know that we've got people that are struggling, and we have organizations that help them. And this mom didn't know even where that was, because she hasn't struggled before this. I think there are so many people now that are struggling that have never struggled before. They don't even know that there are resources out there for people who struggle. And I want to be one of those resources. I want I Heart Mac and Cheese to be one of those resources. As I left for the day, I saw another mother and her daughter on the corner of a major shopping center asking for help, and it broke my heart.
Right.
And so my first thought was, it would break the hearts of everybody if I put this out there on BCS Meals and Deals or anywhere and said, oh my gosh, people, look at what's happening in our community. Everybody that works for the university has continued to get paid through this thing. Right. I mean, they've all worked from home. They've adjusted. The university pivoted, and nobody lost their job that wasn't going to lose it anyway necessarily. I mean, they made it work. So all those people have continued to get paid, and so they are the ones that are willing to help. They want to help. Where do they need to do that? Where would they do that? So what I'm hoping to do is set something up to where maybe we could set up and even get some other restaurants to get involved about like a pool of gift cards. Like, come and buy a gift card. We're gonna put these all in a box or in an envelope, and I'm gonna take them to the home, to the food shelter, to the homeless shelter, to the women, to the Catholic outreach. Like, I'm gonna find wherever it is, the churches. I mean, I can find people that know that where people are hurting, that have a list of people that need help, and find those people that need help and say, give these people a meal. This is from the community. This is what the community did. This is not I Heart Mac and Cheese. This is the community. That helps me because in two ways. Number one, that meal's paid for. Yeah. That meal's paid for at the cost that we've set, that gives us that 5%, that we get to take, but it pays labor and it pays the food costs and everything. Yeah. And that person gets to eat,
Yeah.
right? That person gets to eat today, or their family gets to eat. And then when they get back on their feet, they remember that. They remember that the community helped them. They remember that they ate at I Heart Mac and Cheese and they loved it, and they become a loyal customer.
Yeah, and so I mean that's as simple as they walk through there and go, "Hey, I'm paying for my meals, but I'd like to get one $10 gift card or whatever."
Like a $10 gift card. I'd like to get a $25 gift, whatever I can afford. I'm going to pay for my meal because I heard that you guys needed support, but I want to support somebody else in the community. Yeah. Can I put it in that pot? And I mean, I'll start that today.
And now your support stretches two veins. Yeah. It's going to support the business, but it's also supporting somebody in need. So, and to that point, and I want people to hear me clearly here, because this is, man, we're really good sometimes at judging people's situations, and it is common ground. You see somebody standing with a sign, or they got a little kid or whatever, and they're out there in need, and the first kind of initial reaction is, I bet they have a place to live and they're just out there just raking people for money, And now all of a sudden, we tend to turn a blind eye to it because of that. But what's always interesting is, so my daughter and I see that, and my daughter will say, can we help them? In my world, the way I look at it is, I'm going to help you. I'll buy food for you, right? Like if you're here and you're really struggling, I'll buy food for you. And if I buy food for you and you tell me no, well, then I kind of already know, right? But in that situation, food is a necessity. It is something people have to have. And so if you're worried about that, if you're worried about the idea that you just, maybe your brain just magically flips to this is a scam or a con artist or whatever, is buy food. And you can do that through buying a gift card through your organization.
You could buy if you see somebody sitting on the corner and you're headed to the restaurant, and especially if it's fast casual, something that you can carry out in a bag, buy 2 meals and drop it off with them as you go. I used to live in a city in Colorado that had a high homeless population, and there was a lot of, the street corner thing, it was a thing. There was a lot of them. I didn't always have cash on me, and we were more strapped back then. We were a young couple and had kids and had bills to pay. We didn't have a lot extra to just hand off to people. But what I would do is I would keep a case of water in my car, because it was a hot, arid area of Colorado, and especially in the summer. And I would, and if I had something to share, I would, but sometimes it was just handing them a bottle of water, because guess what? They get dehydrated too. And a bottle of water might give them just the brain power they need, to the energy they need, whatever. I want to, I'd like for us to be able to help people through our business model as well. And so I'm constantly thinking of that. And if there's anybody out there that has an idea and wants to partner with me, give me a call. Well, I'll figure that out.
And again, I've said this time, I almost say this on every podcast. Most people would not want to be in another community other than the Bryan College Station area, just simply because of that tight knit community. Yesterday I said it as Aggies, or the day before, as Aggies helping Aggies. That's not who we are as a community. Yeah, we are an Aggie populated community, but we are people helping people.
Yeah.
And for us here in town, for the folks that are here in town, when there is a calling, when there is a need, then there is a gap that people are always willing to fill.
Always.
That social media post showed that gap. And then the gap was filled by the people.
It was.
And in a very quick hurry.
Oh, yeah.
But again, as a business owner, I know you don't want to be out there going, hey, it's another week and I need another
I don't want to put it, I don't want to
be,
and I don't want to have to panhandle for things. And we've already talked about it. Our staff got so excited. They're like, oh my gosh, and we can have, and we can bring back the crew. Yeah. And I said, okay, everybody take a breath, because yes, the community came through, but it's a flash in the pan. It could be. I don't want it to be, but it could be a flash in the pan. And so here's my advice to you. Everybody in the door gets the red carpet treatment. Yeah. Make sure that they want to come back. Yeah. Let them know to tell their friends. Like, don't say, have a nice day. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Say, please tell your friends, so that somebody else will come.
It needs to be sustainable.
It does. And it
doesn't have to be a wall. It doesn't have to be wall-to-wall people.
In fact, no, we don't want it that way, because then my folks are exhausted, and somebody didn't get the right meal, and it becomes a negative experience. We just need it.
And we just have to remember that. We have to, your post will be in your memories a year from today,
I'll never
right?
forget that.
And
I'll never forget him on his
and
knees.
it'll pop up on other people, that are there, and I remember that deal, and that's kind of what I was talking about.
This is the most popular post of 2020.
Right. So I'm over here, talking about when we put this out, we'll be a couple of weeks removed from that event, and then people go, "Oh yeah, I remember that event." I mean, we have a very short attention spans when it comes to that stuff. We go in, we do something we feel real good about, and then we move on. And what we need people to latch in and kind of just, okay, look, I eat out twice a week. So, my kid loves McDonald's. My kid loves Chick-fil-A.
Right.
I'm not going to deprive her of that, but maybe instead of going twice, how about we try and find out if somebody else maybe has something that can fill those,
Stop in places you've never thought. There's so many awesome places, Thai food,
absolutely.
The sushis, and I mean, like, there are so many things that you have driven by every day the whole time you've lived here and maybe never stopped in. It's just because you have another place that you like more.
Expand your horizons. Try something new so that you can begin, fill the gap. And then if you love it, if it was great, blast it out.
Even if you're never going back. Like, even if you came and you supported us because of that post and it was I Heart Mac and Cheese and you're like, meh, or that was good, but I probably won't go back. That doesn't mean that your positive post of, hey, this was really good.
Yeah.
I appreciate this, or I got great service, whatever it was, post the positive so that somebody else then has the opportunity to try it. And then maybe they do love it. We do have people that come in a couple times, 2 or 3 times a week that, I mean, they living on that stuff.
Well,
and
there's a ton of people out there that are in the service industry or customer service industry where they go, I don't want to say it's a bad habit. I actually like the habit that I created with it. But if I see a name tag on somebody, I call them by their name the very first time I see them. And usually, a lot of the times I get the look like, do I know you from somewhere? It's just, again, that personability of being able to make the experience a little bit more personal than just, let's do this exchange. You give me, I give you, I go home. I mean, something a little bit more than that. Right. And businesses that do it well, and small businesses do it better than anybody else, are the ones that know, like, every customer that I come in contact needs to have that great experience, and I'm going to be a part of that. And I want people when they go home, if I'm working for you, I want people when they go home to go, Lowell over at I Heart Mac and Cheese treated me great. Go see him.
Right.
Hey, come see me. Yeah. But, come see me to buy.
And as a business owner, when you say, hey, Cameron and Ariston rocked it, I then know, especially if I didn't happen to be there, or I wasn't there in that moment, big blowout like this, I know who was there and what happened. But in that moment that you got that great service, or you want to tell me, man, every time I come in here, Paul knows exactly what I want. I don't even have to tell him. That helps me appreciate them. That helps me give them the accolades and the pats on the back and the words of affirmation and the gifts and the things that I can appreciate them. And then I have something specific instead of just like, hey, you work for me, Merry Christmas. It's like, you know what? You are providing amazing service, or boy, you are just grace under pressure, or you handled this thing so well. People need that affirmation. They need to know that they matter, that they've done something worthy of getting out of bed this morning. Yeah. And here, I'm going to back up on my psychology background here right now. Mental health is an issue in this nation every day. Every day. There is a certain portion of the population that struggles with mental health issues 100% of the time. It's part of their makeup. This pandemic has exacerbated that to the extreme. And so you think about yourself, if you're not somebody who struggles on a daily basis with mental health, I want you to think of all the days that you were down this year, all the days that you were anxious this year, all the days, I can't tell you how many panic attacks I've had in the past 6 months. All the times that you did that, I want you to imagine somebody that does that every day anyway. Where is that person right now? They might have considered suicide this year. They might have attempted it. They might be gone now. They might be thinking about it right now. We have to realize that this thing has changed the world. Yeah. And it's made life a lot worse for some people than it has for me. And I try to keep that in perspective, because when I'm feeling like the end of the world is near, I know I'm going to pick up my bootstraps and figure it out. But I don't know if that kid that's working for me, if he just needs to know that what he did today mattered. And so when you tell me, this Paul did a great job, thank you, I maybe we save a life together, you and me, on just a simple thing.
Yeah. And I mean, so that support, that feedback, all of that stuff goes towards the recovery.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, it's all
we're all going to have to recover from this together.
We talked about before we sat down, and I was telling you, people view Bryan College Station that our foundation is Texas A&M, and I was kind of talking to you before we sat down, like, I don't believe that. I believe that small business is the backbone and foundation, and everything's built off of that. So as a small business opens and there's a need for that small business, then it's our job as in the community to support those small businesses, to keep the foundation solid for bigger businesses, other entities to make their way to town and continue to grow. The more the town grows, the better that is for everybody. I know we like to go, oh man, I remember when this thing, there was a gap between Bryan and College Station, and you're traveling to the other side of town, I mean, we need that to continue the growth. We need that to support more businesses to open. And it's scary to open your own business and know that, I've funneled, like you said, you were being honest earlier saying, I've funneled in all my money here. I mean, like there is not loads more money that I can continue to shovel in here.
And I'm not willing to borrow. It's part of my philosophy is if you, I don't want to borrow because at this point, I don't know if I could pay it back. And I don't want to borrow something I might not be able to pay back. That's again not part of my makeup.
Yeah, but also at the same point, if you feel like you're in the middle of a dumpster fire and somebody's got some water for you,
right?
Hey man, please come help put me out. Just and so there are a lot of resources, a lot of places. If you're a small business owner and you're really struggling, that BCS Meals and Deals Wall, that definitely was a resource for Laura and her crew, come Monday. And that definitely has kind of showed its way through this week. There are a lot of the resources out there, people that you can reach out to. I mean, Laura and I were talking about a few pages that she wasn't a part of, just as resources to be able to get a hold of. This podcast, I want this podcast to be a resource for people to be able to hear more about the business, more about the owner, more about the people, and give an opportunity for that recovery to continue. And so, yeah, I mean, it's great to get KAGs out, right? For a 3 minute little boost up deal that maybe you can tag on there. But quite honestly, it's the interactions, it's the conversation, it's the, where else is somebody going to be able to go and listen to an hour and 50 minutes, by the way, listen to an hour and 50 minutes of conversation about you, your business, the culture of your company, what you need, what you're seeing, what you offer, services, all of that other stuff, all in one location right here. For people to be able to do that. People are so pressed for time and everything is such a quick, boom, 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 that this podcast may get absorbed 5 different times from that same individual to get through the whole thing. Yeah. But they get to know a little bit about you, a little bit about your business. They get to know the backside story behind the post. Maybe they weren't a part of that or didn't get to see that. But then they also get to hear the need. The need is consistency. We just need people to consistently continue to visit us. Give us an opportunity to win you over to be one of your new places.
And if you try something you don't like, come and try a different menu item. The flavor changes every time you add a different ingredient.
Yeah, and then as a business owner, I always want to hear what my customers' thoughts are, even if it's something where somebody says, well, have you thought about maybe doing this? And, well, no, I hadn't, but now that you brought that up, that's a great opportunity. So, and your support, again, leads down into the support for the community. If you're spending the money here locally, Laura's taking that money, she's contributing that out to her employees. They're contributing that out to landlords. They're, groceries. They're out eating someplace. It just has this flow through effect that affects a lot of other people other than just your business.
Yeah, it really is.
And so, that's again what this community brings to the table is where there's a need, where there's a gap, there is a community to fill that. And there's a lot of communities that's not the case. That wouldn't have probably happened. But because everybody sits there and goes, I get it. I get it. I understand. Or I am that person. I am that business. Or I was that business. Or I was that person. So here I come to help save the day, at least that day, right? So what we'd ask from you guys, man, thanks for coming down.
Oh my gosh, this was so amazing. I've never done a podcast.
For most people who again, you don't know the backstory of this podcast, I had somebody else actually scheduled today, and I would actually
I would normally be in my Irish mac and cheese garb.
I reached back to Laura when I saw the story. I think I messaged you Sunday night, maybe it was.
And I didn't see it because there's so many different ways to get hold of me, and I was like, oh look, I've got 2 messages messages through Facebook.
Yeah.
I didn't even see.
Listen, my wife knew exactly what was up because I read her the post earlier the day on Sunday of what was posted out. And then my wife saw me on my phone and saw me in Messenger, and she's like, "Are you reaching back to the lady with I Heart Mac and Cheese?" I go, "I am."
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, "I knew that's what you were doing." And so I'm in there just going, "Hey, we'd love to have you on the show, be able to talk about it." And initially had something that didn't kind of line up. And I said, "Well, but we can get together here." And your comment was, when you emailed me back, you said, "I've got an opening on Wednesday. I'll be more than happy to sit down and talk to you. If it's available, I'd love to get in there." And I go, "Well, I'm sorry, I already have one. My guest had to reschedule. I call you, boom, you're here."
Serendipity.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, your week just doesn't continue.
It hasn't stopped yet. It's awesome.
Like boom, boom, boom. Everything is falling. You should probably go buy a lottery ticket.
I know, right?
So,
and if I could win the lottery, boy, I'd love to just share it.
Yeah.
I would. I mean, so we, we're closed tomorrow. And of course, this podcast is going to air after.
Yeah.
But so we're closed tomorrow and Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and I think we're just gonna chill a little bit.
Hey,
maybe.
man, I mean, listen, the blessings it'll be a great opportunity to take those days and just realize just how blessed
we
you
are.
are.
Oh, and we really are.
And so, I'm grateful to be able to get you in here quickly.
Thanks.
And,
that was awesome.
I love the opportunity to be able to sit down, listen to you, hear your story, get to see your heart, really in what you're pouring into your business. There were a few tears before we sat down here at the deal, and I know it's
made it through the whole podcast without tears. That's awesome.
I know it's tough, and I know it's a struggle, but I'm grateful for the transparency that you have back into the community to let people know, not just the appreciation. I think if anything, if you're listening to this, and if you're a small business listening to this, the importance of being transparent, even when it hurts, even when it's embarrassing, even when that humility is tough to bring to the forefront. There are people that will step up. This
community will support you, and you got to do it now, because when you've already, I mean, my husband talks about, like the canoe, we felt like the canoe was over the edge of the falls. Yeah. Like we couldn't paddle back. We're starting to feel like maybe that's not the case, but we might have waited too long. We still don't know. We're not out of the woods yet, but I know there are people out there who might have. And I will tell you, I learned this, and I'm going to plug him, and he didn't even know it, but I learned this from Mr. Madden that has Mad Taco. He on his Facebook page, and he has a great following. He's been here a long time.
Yes.
Everybody, a lot of people know him. He's got a loyal following. He was real transparent a couple months back about hitting his knees every morning and praying, and he lined it out, and he's like, August we had hope. Everything was crap, and then August students came back and we had a little hope, but then sales started falling again in September, and then even more, and now. Now we're going to rebrand, and we're going to change this location, and we had to close it. I mean, he was just out there, and I read that whole post, and I was in tears by the end of it, and I was like, and then I saw all the support, all these people tagging him, and let's go visit and stuff. I was like, I think they just need to know. They need to know you hurt, and don't assume that they do. Be out there. Just say, we need your help.
Listen, I mean, it doesn't help you when the doors are closed.
No, not at all. Exactly. Once you have to close, it's over. And then, so we're gonna ride this wave and hope that it. And I've got a lot of other ideas about using the Century Square site for private parties and that kind of thing, fundraisers, until we can get back to our student population and back on our feet, and I hope we can save it.
Yeah. And again, if you're in the market, I was telling her about a resource page that I'm a part of where businesses communicate back and forth with each other. It's not, I'm competing against you. It's, we're in
How
this.
Can we help you? We experienced that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Here's what we did.
Yeah. And using those resources to just, maybe it triggers that one little thing that you go, I hadn't thought about that, or let's try this and just see how it works. And you kind of throw it to the wall and see if it sticks and if it creates something. And it may be, again, kind of like a Madden's deal where he's over there going, he took his Mad Taco place and transformed it to Mad Melts, and again, but just the idea of going, okay, we're struggling. Hey, let's rebrand.
When he said they were doing that, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. But again, it's the idea of, what I'm doing right now isn't working. Let's try something else.
Exactly. And that's the mark of a survivor. I mean, we're going to persevere. We're going to figure it out. But and I know my husband and I are going to be okay no matter what happens. And we'll be all right. We'll figure it out. We lived in a camper for 2 years while we built our house, several years ago. It's like, we know how to survive on nothing. But I got people that count on me for paycheck.
Yeah.
I got people that maybe don't know how to survive the next day or the next day. And with all these other places that are at low, capacity, there's not a lot of opportunities for them to go and work in the same industry. And maybe that's their skill set. Maybe that's their passion.
Yeah.
I got to stay open for them. I got to make this work.
Well, the community needs an I Heart Mac and Cheese.
I believe so too.
They need Laura Livingston to be continuing to run the business here. We need you here so that we can be a better community with you in it.
Thank you.
With your leadership in your business, continuing to push it forward. And again, even in this moment of frustration and desperation and everything else, still thinking about how can I give back? How can we do more as a business to be a part of the community that's helping us as well too. So again, insightful conversation. I loved having you in here. I'm so grateful that you're able to make it in and kind of manipulate time and move around and some stuff to get here. But it was great to be able to just sit down, have you in here, and let you be able to kind of talk about these situations that you're facing. And again, knowing that you're not the only one in this boat.
No, we are. It's kind of the Titanic, and I'm hoping that we haven't even hit the iceberg and we can just skirt it.
Yeah, and listen, Bryan College Station apparently has a lot of good sheet metal guys that can shore up anything.
That's right.
That happens,
So we'll just
So
we know how that happened. We don't have to go back there.
Absolutely. So again, I Heart Mac and Cheese. One location right now. They can go over to Jones Crossing, see you over there. What are your hours over at the Jones Crossing?
And by the time this airs, we should be back to normal hours. Right. So it'll be 11 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yep. On the backside, if you're driving Welborn or whatever, you're not missing it. It's just on the backside.
It's on the backside. On the other side, it's on the backside between Chick-fil-A and H-E-B.
Yep.
And so if you head like you're going to go to the drive-thru of Chick-fil-A, you'll find us.
Yep. And then we are keeping fingers crossed, praying for you guys. Century Square is going to pull through.
We're hoping.
And students come back and they'll help support that over there, or people who are driving through
just
there.
Get everybody back. We get back to a normal semester where people are on campus.
Games,
and that's something that, people don't realize, I don't think from a business perspective, is this community really relies on the volume that is created by the events. And it's not just football. It's very heavy university, but all the events. I mean, the sorority events and the high school events and the proms and the graduations and the ring days and the parents' days and the football games. None of that happened.
Right.
None of it happened, which means nobody went into December, which they always know is a dumpster fire. Yeah. Nobody went into December with a nest egg. Nobody went into December with what they usually go into, which is, okay, we've saved up all year long, knowing that we got to get through this and pay all of our bills with our backflow, and then we hit January running. It didn't happen. And so that's why I'm scared. I'm worried for the community, and I want everybody to realize that it may seem normal on the surface, but I don't want to. I feel like there's a storm coming, and I want to save everybody that we can. Yeah,
and I've sat here and the storm part I'm not so far away from you on, but I also believe that there will be a huge rebound.
There will be.
And that rebound, when it happens,
there'll be somebody that fills the gap.
Yeah, when it happens is going to be the magic question, and hopefully with things kind of coming back around with vaccines and things like that. That we'll see normalcy, kind of start creeping its way back in.
And I hope that the normalcy, what I really hope is that the fact that there is a light now.
Yeah.
We do have a vaccine.
Absolutely.
This does look like we're gonna conquer it. That indeed that will give people the opportunity to hang on maybe a little longer, ask for a little grace. Yep. All the way up the line, the people going, okay, this isn't as bleak as it was. Yeah. I'll spot you one more month or whatever it takes to get you over that hump, and that the community can say, you know what, I don't even like mac and cheese, but I'll go try a sandwich or I'll try their veggies just because, they need it, and I'll do that. And maybe I'm only there once, but hey, it was pretty decent. I'll tell Facebook. I'll tell my friends.
Well, give your guys a pat on the back for this week. I know they've worked hard, and it's good to see that the community came out to support you. We just need that consistency. So again, if you're out there, you're looking for a lunch, looking for a dinner, swing by, see Laura and her crew over at I Heart Mac and Cheese over in Jones Crossing. And again, just a little, a little conversation that leads to such big things. So don't be afraid to ask those small businesses that are out there, like, how are they doing? I mean, have those conversations. Those business owners want to talk to you. They want to be able to inform their customers of what's going on. And transparency is hard to do, So I'm grateful that God put that person in your spot at that time,
that moment,
and then put it on their heart to go and put all that. And it really just rolled everything up, and everything has just kind of been like a snowball for you.
And find us on Facebook, and then you'll know, Kids Eat Free on Monday. You'll find out about all those things that we're throwing out there. And I do want to do that right before we close, and hopefully people have hung on this long. Kids Eat Free every Monday with the purchase of an adult entree. We're running an ongoing $2 off special for any college student. Your college ID is a $2 off coupon off a sandwich or a bowl. I'm trying to think. Oh, military. So military, veteran, police officer, firefighter, and frontline healthcare workers, 10% off. Thank you for your service. We just, and again, that's part of our give back. That's not a gimmick. It's not because I want you in. Okay, the $2 is a gimmick. Yeah. I want the college students to come in, and I know you guys are on a budget. That's come in and we'll give you a break because this community does count on the university to a certain extent. But the rest of it is just, we want you to know that you're welcome in our establishment, and that we appreciate you as well.
Well, Laura, thanks for coming in. Thanks for spending a couple hours with me. And I can't wait for people to hear your story. And I look forward to hearing great things coming your way.
Awesome.
Not just through this podcast, but really through everything that's snowballing for you. I hope that snowball gets so big it just rolls right over the top of you with generosity and wealth and everything else. So, and we'll keep you in our prayers. And if you need anything from us, by all means, please reach back. So thanks for coming out today. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to y'all later.